So wonderful panel. It was a great way to wrap up this discussion. We've had some fantastic sessions today, and I'm extremely happy to see all the people that we've been able to bring to this, not only here in this room, but also our wonderful folks online, not just these 6, the Brady Bunch. There are way more. There's about 102 people joining us in this room, and I want to thank you all for joining us. Can you move the, there we go. I messed it up. I might as well just turn it off. Just move it to the questions. See, you guys aren't the only ones that struggle with this thing. I do too. There we go. So we started off today with a great context setting. Well, actually, we started off with a wonderful welcome from Suzanne. And then we went into a nice, Katie set the scene for us on what, resource sharing through history, which was wonderful to hear. And then we had a fantastic session from Alan Jones and Sarah Germain. Alex being I think he's in New York, but don't quote me on that. He's Eastern time zone, but Sarah was joining us 13 hours ahead in Australia at, I think, like 11 o'clock at night. So, I mean, that was quite a fantastic session, especially for that late at night for her. But we had Alan explain the mysteries of ISO 18626 and also the difference between saying a system is compliant and systems actually being able to actively and productively interoperate. So that was a very great distinction for him to make very clear and very plain to everybody in this room that saying you're ISO compliant doesn't mean that things are going to work together. That was a big takeaway for me, at least. And it was wonderful from Sarah to hear about how they did it in Australia and how that could be a model for all of us, even here in Canada, potentially, where we tend to have a little bit of a struggle sometimes with that whole national togetherness. But if Australia can do it, I'm sure we can too. But that idea that working together is the way we need to go to move forward, because we're not going to do it individually as institutions. We're not going to do it regionally. And it's going to be really hard if we're all trying to do our own thing. We really need to do this all together. I'm a little too close to that. So cooperation was the key that I took away from the discussion this morning with Sarah and Alan. And then we moved on to some great discussions around the different systems that we all use, particularly with our 2 vendor partners, Ex Libris / Clarivate and OCLC. We had some wonderful sharing, I guess is the best way to say it, around what's working, what challenges we're facing, what workarounds people are using. And it sounds like there's quite a few workarounds. What suggestions we have for moving forward, which was a great time to start thinking and imagining the future, which is what we're all gathered here to do anyways, is to imagine what we want the future to be and how we can get there. Then we moved on after lunch. We had some interesting presentations from our 2 vendor partners around their vision of resource sharing and the roadmaps they are planning to get us there, and how they are going to be working with us as partners to move that process forward. And we really look forward to continuing that communication around how do we work together, not individually. We're not competitors. Yes, I know that that's different in the vendor world, but we want to work with you all as a community to come together for the benefit of all. It's not, oh, we're this camp, we're that camp. We want it to work together for everybody. We don't want any institutions left behind. That's the bottom line. Then we had our panel, which we all just finished here now, where we had a great grouping of practitioners from across Canada And then we also had our representatives from our vendor partners who basically were able to give us their insights into the issues and those critical questions that we had, I think about 6 critical questions that we looked at today. And those are the ones that came from you all in that original and the pre-work we did for this workshop. Those questions came directly from you all about what were the biggest things you wanted to be able to discuss. And I think we did a great job on discussing them. But as CJ mentioned, this was just the first conversation. It wasn't meant to be the end of the road. What we want to do now is figure out what's next. And that's where you all come in, because this was our kick at the can to get that conversation rolling. We need to do something, and we don't all know, we just don't know what the path is. We're still figuring that out. But we need to start thinking and talking together as a group across the country to figure out what's next. We're at a crossroads. It's an opportunity for us to build what we want or build what we need. So I'd like to see the conversation continue. I put a few up on the screen, some ideas that have come up from across the session. We will have a summary of the session. We will be putting up the recording, all the slide decks, everything. And we will also be sending out a survey to ask you more questions, because not everybody wants to be able to, or is able to say on the spot, oh, this is what I think we need to do. Some people need time to think about it, and that's a really great thing. There's all kinds of people in this world, and we really want to make sure we enable you all to have that opportunity to give us feedback so that we can figure out what's next. So there will be a survey going out for you to provide more feedback, but this is also the opportunity for you to provide feedback now. I think we actually already had a pity we weren't able to get the chat. You weren't able to see the chat, but there were some great ideas in there, like a national resource sharing committee, which sounded extremely interesting and sounded like a great way to start connecting across the different regions. We also were considering, well, why just one summit? Why do we only have it just like, is this something we can do annually where the group comes together in whatever way, shape or form, or wherever it might be, to have those discussions? The idea that there's webinars and forums we could have in between. So I don't know if any of you are also from the collections community, but the big Charleston conference, which is our collections community conference, have these Charleston in-betweens. So if we have an annual summit, can we have like smaller things in between? Can we have forums? Can we have webinars? There's topics that got surfaced here. We focused on system interoperability, but we didn't talk about things like how do we intersect with e-resource licensing? How does copyright play in this whole arena that we're working with? We're starting to lend whole ebooks. What's involved in that? What are the things we need to know about? Those are all topics that also need to get discussed. This was just one very focused area, a huge area, but there's a lot more to talk about as well. So we're talking about, we need to start having more frequent conversations and learning opportunities so that we can all get up to speed and move forward together with a similar basic knowledge. Because that's the thing, we have people at different points along the stream. We have large institutions where they're doing bigger things potentially, and we have some smaller ones that are just trying to get the job done. We want to make sure that everybody is sort of able to move along in the conversation together. And to do that, they need that knowledge. And so that's part of what we would like to see happen, is to start having more of these knowledge sharing opportunities. And being a huge country, we've got virtual is very easy to organize and to share. Yes, we have many time zones, but we made it happen today with Australia and the Pacific. It can happen. So I think that's something we really need to think about. And then the last thing that came up in the chat was that idea of working groups, committees, whatever you want to call them, task groups, whatever. That idea that maybe we need to start people really talking and thinking within specific topic areas of committees. So maybe we need a committee on system interoperability. We need a committee maybe focused on copyright or communities of practice. Who knows? That's what we want to hear from you. We've heard some, but I know it's been a really long day and you're probably not going, I can't think anymore. This is not going to happen. But if you want to, please say, please, if you've had an epiphany in the last 8 hours, how many hours have we been here? 5, 6, 7, something like that. Anyways, if you've had an epiphany, please share it. And of course, it doesn't have to be an epiphany. Small ideas are just as useful, like they have just as much weight sometimes as huge, expansive ideas, because even a little progress is progress. And it doesn't take a lot to make a huge difference. So any ideas out there? Yeah. Anything online? Oh, wait a second. We've got somebody over here. Oh, Jean.
I've been thinking, we talked about policy. I think it was sometime in the morning of having that foundation of the agreements that we have. And we're at a kind of an opportune point in time right now where we are just at the final stage of refreshing that national agreement we have, which is based on that high level principles. These are the commitments we make to one another, free of charge. These are the, et cetera, et cetera. This joint working group has been working on the last year on finalizing that, and hopefully all of the regional consortia will sign on to that in the waning days of 2025. But we're at kind of a good point now where we have been having that conversation. We'll be having that in our consortia as we sign on to this new agreement. I think it's a good time to then look at continuing some kind of a joint working group. Like we've heard, we need that. I don't know that there is one national voice, but we can put together a national voice in the form of a joint working group like we've had to develop the policy piece, but from each region and maybe from some of the national groups to kind of work together on what is this Canadian vision. I would hate to really, I think there's a bit of momentum, it feels like today. There's a bit of consensus in the room, I think, that we do need a kind of a Canadian solution, and we need to figure out how to go forward again if we feel like we've kind of taken a step backward. But I think a working group makes sense, and probably just start sooner than later, maybe once we get that policy piece all signed off on.
Yes, wonderful point, Jean. We do have that resource sharing agreement that's just been revised and is being approved by the different boards, the consortial boards, which was one of those documents that really underpinned our working together in terms of resource sharing across Canada. And that's just one pillar that we are looking at. There are lots of other opportunities here. So working groups is an excellent idea. We will be thinking around that in the very near future and having some discussions. Anything else that anybody had thought up along the way? Yeah, because I know in Australia it seems to be the utopia of resource sharing right now, and they have a very committed national library, but we're not the same as Australia in some ways, and so we can't just rely on hoping that our national library will do something. We need to potentially develop. Well, there's the idea of developing the conversations with the National Library, which we actually did start. We were supposed to have a representative attending the webinar, but their last day is tomorrow, so they weren't able to attend. So we are going to start with their successor to at least try to engage the LAC in the conversation and bring them into this discussion because we really want them to be a partner in this. Just because it hasn't been as great in the last decade or so. Um, it doesn't mean it can't happen. There is a model that we could look at, but we can't depend on that. That's why we also need to be doing other things, working together and trying to create those networks and not potentially hoping the LAC will be the one to jump in and do it for us. And that's exactly what you're all doing here is coming together to be that concerted voice. So I do want to take this moment to, can you move it to the next slide, please? There's a lot of people to thank here in this room and online that went into making this such a great event, or at least the starting conversation in a great series of events that will continue. We have a Summit Planning Committee. They consisted of myself and Katie, but we had Joe Wickens here in the back, Becky Stone, and I don't know why it says Beck. I apologize, Becky. That was my flub. But Becky Stone from Memorial University, Wendy Witzak from Mount Allison University, Laura Chadwick also from CAAL, Pam Chase from Novanet, and Jean Blackburn, who was our intrepid, got up early this morning with us and helped us set up and get everything in place to make this a great in-person session and also a hybrid session. We also had our wonderful moderators, Peter Webster here from St. Mary's University, and then also Suzanne Van den Hogen over the corner there, who moderated both our panels and did a wonderful job on both. And then we can't go without saying thank you to our Mount St. Vincent University as our host, Jill Hurlbert in the catering services, conference services, went into making sure that you were all well fed and you could hear us and everybody was able to be comfortable and participate in this conversation. And lastly, but not least, was our wizard behind the curtain, Patrick Leonard, from our AV services. He was the whiz that made the power happen at your tables and made it so that you could hear everything and everybody online could participate. Thank you, Patrick. So once again, it takes a village to make an event happen, and that's what happened today. And we hope that the village will continue to grow and continue to make more events. Thank you. And give yourselves a hand too, because coming together in this conversation is a big deal. This is really the kickoff and the starting, and you all deserve a huge hand of applause for all of your work and your time spent here just thinking and engaging, because that's a lot. That's a huge step. So give yourselves a round of applause as well. So that's all we have. You should be okay on, oh, wait a second, Suzanne has something in the corner. Yes, I did say that. I will be sending out a survey to everybody who registered for the summit. And we will be asking things like, what are your ideas for how we could move forward? Those types of things. So please look out for it in your email and please take the time to complete it, because that really helps us figure out how we could potentially move this conversation forward, because that's what we really want to do. We want to move forward as partners, whether we be practitioners or vendors, we're partners, and we want to move that conversation forward. So thank you all.